Hello Norman, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, and you've been joined by your lovely wife. Hello Jessie, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, good. It's absolutely lovely to speak to the both of you. Very, very kind enough to send me a copy of your wonderful book called Archie and the Enchanter. Can you tell me how you started writing?
I got some articles published in the medical press years and years and years ago to do with clinical review, and also I did a bit of peer-reviewed research, which also got published in the medical press. That was really the start of my writing. When I retired in 2012, I decided to start writing then, properly, and wrote a couple of theological devotional books, and then started on Archie and the Enchanter.
How do you feel when you're writing, Alexander?
Campbelltown has quite a long piping history. That's where I come from, okay? Down in sort of Kintyre. As part of the community where we are, a very small community in the middle of nowhere, we have two small children, and we have a daily children's story time. And that really inspired it, because I read my way through We Needed Brighton and so on. I thought, I can do just as good as this, and I've entertained them with my own stories. So there we are. That's how it started.
The story itself is very magical. I get a picture of you looking out and just seeing this story in front of you. Do you have a writing routine?
Well, do I indeed? It's a challenge, really. Not really. I don't have a routine. We're busy people. We've got a small community. I get involved in cooking and artwork and teaching art to the children and everything else, because we homeschool. I've got to set myself goals. You know, you've got to you probably do this as well, Lisa. You've got to look at the week and you say, oh, golly, I've got to do something. Otherwise, I won't do anything. So you've got to say, okay, this is what I'm aiming for, and do it.
I usually convince myself with a bar of chocolate afterwards. I can't have the chocolate until I finish this chapter. Now, is there any other advice that you'd offer to any other writers out there?
Yeah, there are four things. Firstly, don't give up. There's always a story inside you. It's always worth telling. It will always catch other people's imagination, and it may well sell, okay? So don't give up. Just stick with it. The second thing I would go for is to join a local writers group. The Scottish Association of Writers would help, SAW, and they would give advice, and that's a way to get your writing peer-reviewed, okay? Thirdly, and it's what Ernest Hemingway would recommend, is to, when you've written something, is to try and reduce it by 50%. Reduce the word count by 50%. And that's what he would aim to do. And it works. It makes it much sharper, much brighter, and you move out all the irrelevances. And finally, I found that a website that comes up regularly on my messenger, and it's called Authors Publish. And it's an American site, and it actually gives you links into the publishing houses worldwide, I think, that are currently accepting new writers. Okay, so the Authors Publish, and you'll find that useful.
That's a very helpful tip, and I think you made a very important point there, Alexander, about the writing can be quite isolating, so it's very important to get out there and get support within the writing community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're quite right there. It is a lovely job, isn't it? You need the encouragement and support of other people.
And can I ask, Alexander, are you working on another story at the moment?
Well, there's another book that's been published, a sequel, which is Archie and the Dark Door mystery, and that is about discovering part of the Stuart treasure that got lost, okay? There's another two that are in the pipeline. The third one is to do with in the remote Scottish West Coast situation, is that of human trafficking and bringing smuggling people in from overseas. Okay, so that's the third one. And finally, I thought, yeah, let's really go for it and get Archie going up to Glen Crerran, where the bagpipes came from, or the Enchanter came from, and discovering the Weir folk there, disappearing into them. I believe, you see, that there are powers of each of the nations, and the fairy powers, if you like, and this is what marks Scotland out from England and makes it an independent nation and everything. It's nothing to do with people or history. There's actually something much more supernatural than that, and that's really what I'm catching into there.
If people wanted to find out more about yourself, and where would be Archie and the Enchanter be available to buy?
My website gives the links into Amazon and also the publisher's house, which is Tradition UK. And my website is www.alexanderweir.co.uk. I'll give that again, www.alexanderweir.co.uk. And that will give you the links into where you can get these publications from.
Thank you very much, Alexander.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This story is about Archie and his magic bagpipes. But first of all, let me tell you who Archie is. Archie is a scruffy boy with spiky ginger hair, a cheerful grin, and a way of getting into trouble. He lives with Mum and Dad in a small seaside town on a remote part of Scotland's west coast. There are two things he enjoys more than any others, apart from food: adventure and playing bagpipes. OK, now you know a little about our hero. Let me start the story. Grandpa was fast asleep, not just snoozing, but noisily asleep, which means he was snoring very loudly indeed. Archie sat listening and was bored. It was raining outside, and there was nothing to do indoors, nothing except listen to Grandpa. Archie looked round the musty old room. The room was full of old knick-knacks that Grandpa had collected over the years, things that he was never allowed to touch, as he would most certainly break them. Archie sighed and longed to be somewhere else. Anywhere would do. There was nothing at all to do here in this dusty old room, except listening to dusty old Grandpa snoring in his dusty old way. Even dusty old wee Billy the budgie, yes, even wee Billy, was fast asleep as well, with its head under its wing. Oh dear, why had he come? That was the question. But he knew the answer, and it was all because of his mistake. A big mistake. Mum had been really cross about his end-of-term school report. "Now, Archibald Alistair McAllister," she had said, raising her voice steadily as her temper heated. She always used his full name when he was in trouble. "Now, Archibald Alistair McAllister," she repeated, an octave higher, and with at least 10 more decibels of volume added in. "This is terrible. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? All you seem to want to do is fool around with that wretched thing." And with that she gave the thing a well-aimed kick. The thing, a set of bagpipes, that was leaning against the wall, gave a gurgling groan and slid down to the floor. That was unfortunate too. Mum thought that the thing was answering her back, and its groan brought her up to boiling point. She became red in the face, eyes bulging, and began to splutter. She was like an overfull kettle about to boil. "But, Mum," Archie had protested, "Mr. Dawson did say I was trying." That had been the big mistake. Mr. Dawson, Archie's form master, really enjoyed saying that to every child, and always in a most sarcastic voice. They were always trying his patience, that is. Mr. Dawson was also known as Tyrannosaurus Rex because of his size, the way he stomped around, grunted, and stormed over even the smallest mistake. He too was trying, very trying indeed. Yes, Archie had made a big mistake. There was never any sympathy from Mum when he quoted old TR. To quieten Mum down, Archie volunteered to visit Grandpa, who lived a good 2-hour bus ride away in a small village further up the coast. Mum and Dad were always too busy to make the long trip to see him, and in any case, when they did, there was never anything to do apart from making sure he was well and taking his pills. Archie's offer was immediately accepted, and with that the storm died down. Like the weather, the atmosphere in the home could be described as cloudy with very occasional sunny spells. But all that was a week ago. Archie had hoped that Mum would have forgotten the offer, but not so. And here he was at his grandpa's. Visits to see Grandpa were always boring, but this was turning out to be the most boringest of them all. That's all for now. See you tomorrow.